Jake Morrison sat in the big meeting room on Nexus Prime. The room was huge, with seats for hundreds of alien beings. He was the only human there. All around him sat creatures that looked nothing like people. Some had crystal skin that sparkled in the light. Others looked like giant bugs with too many arms. Some were just floating balls of bright energy that hurt to look at directly. Jake felt very small in his simple black suit. The other beings wore fancy robes or had metal armor that glowed with strange colors. They all looked at him like he was a child who did not belong there. The meeting had been going on for hours. Jake knew what was coming. He had seen the vote counts on his small tablet. The numbers were not good for Earth. Speaker Vorthalon stood up. The tall crystal being was the leader of the Galactic Council. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. The vote is complete. Motion 4472 has passed by a count of 847 to 3. Jake's heart sank. Only 3 votes for humanity. His own vote and 2 others from small worlds that barely had any power in the council. The human species will relocate to the worlds designated Terra 7, Vorthalon continued. All human colonies must be empty within 30 standard days. This decision cannot be changed. Jake stood up slowly. Speaker Vorthalon, my people have lived on those worlds for over 40 years. We have built farms, cities, homes. You cannot just tell 3 billion people to pack up and leave. A sound like angry buzzing filled the room. It came from the Zephyrian section. The bug-like aliens were laughing at him. One of them, a creature with 4 arms and dark green skin, spoke up. Human Morrison, your kind should be grateful. Terra 7 is a good world. Better than you deserve. Better than we deserve. Jake felt his face get hot with anger. What did we do wrong? We followed all the council rules. We never started any wars. We never attacked anyone. Another alien spoke up. This one was from the Corvan Empire. He looked like a giant lizard wearing military clothes covered in metals. Your species takes up too much space. The Vorthok need room to grow. Your 3 worlds will make fine crystal farms. Jake looked around the room. Not one alien face showed any care for what would happen to the humans. To them, people were just bugs to be moved out of the way. What if we say no? Jake asked. The room went very quiet. Then Vorthalon made a sound like ice cracking. That would be unwise, Human Morrison. Very unwise. On the big screen behind the speaker, images appeared. They showed huge alien ships moving through space. The ships were bigger than mountains. Jake could see the Earth through the windows of the meeting room. Those giant ships were already moving toward his home. Jake sat back down. His hands were shaking. He pressed a button on his tablet and sent a message to Earth. Just for words. They voted against us. Far away from the meeting room, Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of her ship, the EDS Defiance. She was reading Jake's message on her own screen. Around her, the crew worked at their stations. They all looked worried. Admiral, said Captain Ryan Bell, who was standing next to her. Long-range sensors are picking up movement. Big movement. Lisa looked at the main screen. It showed space around Earth. Red dots were appearing all over the display. Each red dot was an alien ship. There were hundreds of them. How long until they reach our worlds? Lisa asked. The lead ships will be at New Kansas in 6 hours, said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station. The main fleet will be here at Earth in 2 days. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. Her small fleet had only 50 ships. The aliens had thousands. On paper, it looked like the fight was already over before it started. Her ships were simple compared to the alien ones. They used old-style rockets for power. Their weapons shot metal bullets and basic energy beams. The aliens had weapons that could crack planets in half, and shields that could stop anything humans could throw at them. Orders, Admiral, asked Captain Bell. Lisa opened her eyes. Send a message to all ships. Battle stations. We may not be able to win, but we are not going down without a fight. On Earth. President Sam Rodriguez was in his office deep under the White House. The room was full of screens showing the alien fleets moving toward human space. His advisors sat around a big table, all talking at once. Sir, we have to surrender, said one man in a military uniform. We cannot fight them. They will destroy every human world. Maybe we can negotiate, said a woman with gray hair. Offer them something else instead of our colonies. Sam listened to them argue, but his mind was somewhere else. He was thinking about a conversation he had with his grandfather when he was just a boy. The old man had told him stories that sounded crazy, stories about secrets that Earth kept hidden, stories about things that most people would never believe. Sam reached into his desk and pulled out a small key. It was made of metal that looked almost black, with strange symbols carved into it. His grandfather had given it to him and made him promise to keep it safe. Sir, the gray-haired woman was looking at him. What should we tell the people? Sam stood up and walked to a wall safe that no one else knew about. He put the key into a hidden lock. Inside the safe was a single piece of paper with a phone number on it. Tell them to stay calm, Sam said. Tell them we are working on the problem. He picked up a red phone that connected directly to a place that did not exist on any map. When someone answered, Sam said just 3 words. Begin Protocol 7. Deep under the mountains in Colorado, Dr. Helen Walsh was working late in her lab when her computer started beeping. She looked at the screen and saw a message that made her heart race. She had been waiting for this message her whole life, but she had hoped it would never come. She ran down a long hallway to a door that required her handprint, eye scan, and voice recognition to open. Behind the door was a room full of computers and machines that hummed with power. Other scientists were already there, all moving with purpose. Is it really happening? Asked Dr. Tim Johnson, a young man who worked with her. Helen nodded. 43 years of waiting, and now it is time. She walked to a control panel and entered a very long code from memory. Lights began flashing all over the room. What do we do first? Asked another scientist. Helen looked at screens that showed things most humans had never seen. Ships that did not appear on any official records. Weapons that worked in ways that seemed impossible. Technology that had been hidden for hundreds of years. We wake up the real fleet, she said. In space, strange things began to happen. Energy readings spiked in empty areas where nothing should be. Space itself seemed to bend and twist in places where no human ships were supposed to be. The alien fleets continued moving toward human worlds, confident in their power. They had conquered hundreds of species before. Humans would be no different. But they did not know what was really waiting for them. They did not know that Earth had been keeping secrets for a very long time. They did not know that the small, weak human ships they could see were not the real human fleet. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that looks helpless. The countdown had begun. In 30 days, everything would change. The first alien ships arrived at New Kansas just as Captain Ryan Bell had predicted. They were massive crystal ships that looked like floating cities made of green and blue glass. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The lead ship belonged to Nexurch Zixtala, the commander of the Vorthok forces. From his command center, he looked down at the small human colony below. The planet was covered with farms and small towns. It looked peaceful and quiet. Begin the clearing. Operation, Zixtala said to his crew. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The humans have 6 hours to leave. After that, we start burning their settlements. On the planet's surface, Captain Ryan Bell was leading the evacuation. His transport ships were small and old. Compared to the alien vessels above, they could only carry a few hundred people at a time. The colony had over 2 million humans living on it. How many ships do we have? Ryan asked his second officer, Lieutenant Ben Harris. 37 transport ships, sir, and they keep breaking down. We cannot move everyone in time. Ryan looked up at the sky. The alien ships blocked out the sun. Their crystal hulls sparkled with energy that hurt to look at. He knew those ships could turn the entire planet into glass if they wanted to. Keep loading people, Ryan said. Every life we save matters. In the small town of New Hope, families were packing their belongings into whatever vehicles they could find. Mary Collins held her baby daughter while her husband loaded their truck. They had lived on New Kansas for 20 years. It was the only home their children had ever known. "Daddy, why do we have to leave?" asked their 6-year-old son, Peter. His father did not know what to say. How do you explain to a child that aliens want your planet and there is nothing you can do to stop them? Above them, the crystal ships began to glow brighter. Energy beams shot down from the sky, hitting empty fields and turning them into patches of smooth glass. It was a warning. The aliens were showing what would happen to anything left behind. Ryan's radio crackled to life. "Captain Bell, this is Admiral Carter. What is your status?" "We are moving people as fast as we can, Admiral, but we need more time. A lot more time. Time we do not have." Lisa's voice came back. "The main alien fleet will be here in 18 hours. After that, they will not let any more ships leave." Ryan watched another transport ship lift off, carrying 300 scared families to safety. It would take a miracle to save everyone, but strange things were starting to happen in other parts of the galaxy. Deep space monitoring stations were picking up energy readings that did not make sense. The readings were coming from empty space, places where no ships should be. Lieutenant Amy Foster was working at a listening post on the edge of human space. Her job was to watch for alien movement, but her instruments were showing something impossible. "Control. This is Station Eco 7, she said into her radio. "I am getting some very weird readings out here." "What kind of readings, Eco 7? Amy looked at her screens again. "Energy spikes in grid section 447, but there is nothing there. Empty space for light years in every direction. Check your equipment. Probably just interference from the alien fleets." Amy ran a full diagnostic on her systems. Everything checked out perfectly, but the readings were still there. Something big was moving through space. Something that did not show up on normal sensors. She made a note in her log and kept watching. Over the next few hours, she detected similar readings in 12 different locations, all in empty space. All showing the energy signature of massive ships that should not exist, back on Earth. President Sam Rodriguez was meeting with his top military leaders. The situation was getting worse by the hour. General Pat Wilson spread out maps on the big table. "The aliens have surrounded all our colonies. New Kansas will fall first, then New Texas, then New California. After that, they will come for Earth itself." "How many people can we evacuate?" Sam asked. "Maybe 500,000, if we are lucky," said Admiral Lisa Carter through a video link from her ship. "We just do not have enough ships to move everyone." The room was quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Billions of people would be left behind. "There has to be something we can do," said Dr. Carol Davis, the Secretary of Science. "Some weapon we have not tried. Some technology we have not used." Sam looked at the faces around the table. These people had served humanity faithfully for years. They deserved to know the truth, but the truth was something that could not be shared. Not yet. "Keep working on the evacuation," Sam said. "I will see what other options we have." After the meeting ended, Sam went to his private office and made another call on the red phone. "This is Rodriguez. What is the status of Protocol 7? "Phase 1 is complete, Mr. President," came the reply. "Dr. Walsh reports all systems are coming online, ahead of schedule." "How much longer do we need?" 72 hours for full activation. But sir, once we begin Phase 2, there will be no going back. The secret will be out. Sam looked out his window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, alien fleets were moving toward Earth, like a slow-moving storm. The secret was always going to come out, eventually, he said. Better on our terms than theirs. In her underground facility, Dr. Helen Walsh was working around the clock with her team. The room was filled with the sound of computers humming and machines powering up. Screens showed data that would have amazed the greatest scientists on Earth, if they had been allowed to see it. Status report. Helen said to Dr. Tim Johnson. The Nevada site is at 60% power. The Alaska site is at 45%. The deep space arrays are still coming online, but they should be ready in 2 days. Helen nodded. What about the ships? Tim smiled for the first time in days. The ships are responding beautifully. Captain Sarah Phillips reports the Eternal is ready for action. Captain Ben Harris says Sanctuary is fully operational. Helen felt a mix of excitement and fear. These systems had been built over centuries, hidden from the world, waiting for the day they would be needed. That day had finally come. Any word from the Guardian network? She asked. All stations are reporting in. They have been watching the alien fleets. So far, the aliens have no idea. We are there. The Guardian network was humanity's best-kept secret. For over 200 years, hidden bases had been watching the galaxy, gathering information, and preparing for threats that most humans could not imagine. The bases looked like simple research stations or mining operations, but inside, they contained technology that could reshape reality itself. Captain Sarah Phillips was the commander of one such base, hidden in an asteroid field near the edge of human space. Her facility was called the Eternal, and it was much more than it appeared to be. From the outside it looked like a small mining station with a few dozen workers, but deep inside the asteroid, machines were humming to life that had not been used in decades. Ma'am, said Lieutenant Frank Miller, her communications officer, we are receiving the activation codes. Sarah had been waiting for this moment her entire career. She came from a family that had served in the Guardian network for 5 generations. Her great-great-grandmother had been one of the first Guardians, back when the secret was still new. Begin power-up sequence, Sarah ordered, and send word to all Guardian stations. The long watch is over. Around the galaxy, similar scenes were taking place. In hidden bases that did not appear on any star charts, humans were preparing for a revelation that would change everything. The alien empires continued to move their fleets, confident in their victory. They had done this hundreds of times before. Weak species always surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. But as their ships moved through space, they passed by things they could not see. Hidden stations that watched their every move. Weapons that could destroy them in seconds. Technology that operated on principles they had never dreamed of. The aliens thought they were the masters of the galaxy. They thought humans were just another weak species to be pushed around. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On New Kansas, the last transport ships were lifting off. Captain Ryan Bell watched from his ship's bridge as the alien crystal. Ships began to move into position. They were preparing to start their clearing operation. All ships, this is Bell, he said into his radio. Final evacuation run complete. We saved 800,000 people. It was not enough. Over 1 million humans were still on the planet, hiding in bunkers and hoping the aliens would be merciful. Ryan knew the aliens would not be merciful. He had seen what they did to other species. But as his small fleet moved away from New Kansas, something strange happened. His sensors detected energy readings that did not match anything in his database. Sir, said his sensor operator, I am picking up massive power signatures, but there is nothing on visual. Ryan looked at his screens. Empty space showed huge energy spikes that suggested the presence of ships. Ships that were invisible to normal sensors. Run a full diagnostic. Ryan ordered. Already done, sir. The readings are real. There is something out there. Something big. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. But for the first time in days, it was not a chill of fear. It was a chill of hope. Dr. Helen Walsh stood before a group of people who were about to learn the biggest secret in human history. The meeting room was deep underground, so deep that most people did not even know it existed. Around the table sat President Rodriguez, Admiral Carter, and a few others who had the highest security clearance. What I am about to tell you will sound impossible, Helen began, but every word is true. She pressed a button, and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the center of the table. It showed a map of the galaxy, but not one that any of them had seen before. This is the real map of our galaxy, Helen said. The one that shows what we have been hiding for over 400 years. The map was covered with dots of light, thousands of them, scattered across every arm of the galaxy. Each dot was labeled with coordinates and dates. What are those lights? Asked President Rodriguez. Guardian stations, Helen replied. Hidden bases that humanity has built and maintained since the year 1987. Each one is disguised to look like something harmless. A research station, a mining operation, an abandoned wreck. Admiral Carter leaned forward. That is impossible. I command the Earth Defense Fleet. I would know about bases like that. Helen smiled sadly. Admiral, what you command is the visible fleet, the one that everyone can see, the decoy fleet. Another button press, and the display changed. Now it showed ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were sleek and beautiful, nothing like the bulky human ships that everyone knew about. The real Earth Defense Fleet has been hidden since before any of us were born, Helen continued. Every ship you see here uses technology that is centuries ahead of anything the alien empires have. Where did this technology come from? Asked the president. Helen took a deep breath. That is the biggest secret of all. In 1987, our first deep space probe found something near Alpha Centauri, the ruins of a civilization that once ruled this entire galaxy. The display changed again, showing images of massive structures floating in space. They were clearly artificial, but they looked ancient, older than human civilization itself. We called them the architects, Helen said. They built an empire that spanned the galaxy, but then they vanished. No one knows where they went or why they left, but they left behind something important. What? Admiral Carter asked. A message, and a test. The room was completely silent. Everyone was staring at the images on the display. The message was simple, Helen continued. The galaxy is in danger. Something terrible is coming, something that the architects could not stop. Before they left, they built a defense network and hid it throughout the galaxy. But they needed someone to take over when they were gone, and they chose us, asked President Rodriguez. Not exactly. They left the choice to us, the architect. Ruins contained all their technology, but it came with a warning. Any species that used this technology would become the galaxy's guardians. They would have to protect everyone, even their enemies. Helen pressed another button. The display showed Earth, but not the Earth that anyone recognized. This Earth was surrounded by rings of energy and defensive stations that stretched from the surface to the edge of the solar system. Our ancestors had to make a choice, Helen said. Take the power and accept the responsibility, or leave the ruins alone and hope someone else would take on the job. They took the power, Admiral Carter said. It was not a question. They did, but they were smart about it. They knew that power corrupts, and they knew that if the galaxy learned what humanity was capable of, we would become targets. So they hid it all. The president was looking at the images with wide eyes. All of it. The ships, the weapons, the bases, everything. For over 400 years, humanity has been secretly protecting the galaxy. Every time a war got too big, we stopped it. Every time a species developed weapons that could destroy planets, We made sure those weapons disappeared. Every time something dangerous came from outside the galaxy, we dealt with it. The alien empires never knew. Admiral Carter asked. They suspected something, but they could never prove it. To them, humans looked weak and primitive. We made sure of that. Helen brought up another image. This one showed a timeline of galactic history. It was marked with dozens of events that most people had never heard of. The Corvin-Zephyrian War that almost destroyed both empires. We ended it by making their leaders disappear for a few days, and having some very serious conversations with them. The plague that was going to wipe out the Tellurian Federation. We cured it and made it look like they developed the cure themselves. Why? Asked President Rodriguez. Why hide? Why not just take control of the galaxy ourselves? Helen's expression became very serious. Because taking control was not the job. The job was to protect. The architect's message was clear. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Our ancestors decided that the best way to use ultimate power was to hide it until it was absolutely needed. The display changed one more time, showing something that made everyone in the room go pale. It was a map of the galactic core, but the center was wrong. Instead of stars, there was a growing patch of absolute darkness. And now it is needed, Helen said quietly. The real threat is waking up. The thing that made the architects leave. We call them the Devourers. Admiral Carter stared at the dark patch on the map. What are they? Entities from outside our reality? They consume entire universes, turning everything into nothingness. The architects tried to fight them and lost. Before they left, they built a defense network designed to hold the Devourers back for as long as possible. How long? Asked the president. The network has been holding for over 50,000 years, but it is failing. Our deep space monitors detected the first breach 6 months ago. We estimate that we have maybe 10 years before the Devourers break through completely. The room was silent again. The weight of what they were learning was almost too much to process. So the alien empire's threatening us, Admiral Carter said slowly. That is not the real problem. Exactly. The alien empires are like children fighting over toys while their house burns down around them. We have been trying to keep them alive long enough for them to grow up and help us fight the real enemy. President Rodriguez rubbed his forehead, and now they want to wipe us out just when we need them most. Which is why it is time to reveal the truth, Helen said. We cannot protect them if they force us to fight them, and we cannot fight the Devourers alone. She pressed a final button, and the display showed the current situation. The alien fleets were moving toward human worlds, ready to destroy everything in their path. The Guardian network is fully activated, Helen said. Our real fleet is powering up. In 72 hours, we will be ready to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. Admiral Carter looked at the images of the hidden fleet. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Each one looked like it could take on an entire alien armada by itself. What exactly are we going to show them? She asked. Helen smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We are going to save their lives, whether they want us to or not. And then we are going to tell them about the Devourers and hope they are smart enough to help us fight them. In space above New Kansas, Nexurge 6 Stala was growing impatient. The humans had taken their people and left, but he wanted to begin the crystal farming operations immediately. Begin surface preparation, he ordered his crew. Turn the entire planet's surface into crystal matrix. Energy beams shot down from his ships, hitting the empty human cities. Buildings turned to glass in seconds. Farms became fields of sparkling crystal. It was beautiful in its own way, but it meant the complete destruction of everything humans had built. Zixtella watched the destruction with satisfaction. Humans were weak. They always ran away when faced with superior force. Soon, their other worlds would be crystal farms too. He did not notice the energy readings that his sensors were picking up. Readings that suggested massive ships were moving through space nearby. Ships that were invisible to Vorthok technology. Ships that were watching everything he did in her hidden command center. Captain Sarah Phillips watched the destruction of New Kansas on her screens. Every building that turned to crystal, every farm that became a sparkling field, was another reason why the secret had to come out. How much longer? She asked her crew. 18 hours until full power, replied Lieutenant Frank Miller. The Eternal will be ready for action. Sarah nodded. The Eternal was not just a base hidden in an asteroid. It was one of the most powerful ships ever built, using technology that could reshape reality itself. Send a message to all Guardian stations, she ordered. The long watch is ending. Soon, the galaxy will know who we really are. Across the galaxy, similar messages were being sent. On hidden bases that had been secret for centuries, humans were preparing to reveal themselves to a universe that thought it knew everything about them. The alien empires continued their advance, confident in their power. They had no idea that they were being watched by forces that could destroy them all without breaking a sweat. Forces that had been protecting them for hundreds of years. Forces that were about to step out of the shadows and change everything. The alien ultimatum expired at exactly 14:30 Galactic Standard Time. Nexarch Zixtala had grown tired of waiting for the humans to surrender completely. From his command ship above New Kansas, he decided to send a message that the entire galaxy would understand. Target the human colony ship in Sector 7, he ordered. Full power Crystal Lance. Show them what happens to those who resist the void. The colony ship he targeted was the EDS Hope, carrying 50,000 human refugees from New Kansas. Captain Ben Harris was at the controls, trying to get his people to safety. His ship was old and slow, loaded down with families and children. The Crystal Lance charged up with a sound like breaking mountains. Energy gathered at the front of Zixtila's massive ship until it glowed brighter than a star. The weapon could crack a planet in half. One small human transport ship would be destroyed instantly. Fire, Zixtila commanded. The energy beam shot out across space, a lance of pure destruction, aimed at the helpless human ship. Captain Harris saw it coming on his sensors. There was nowhere to run, and no way to defend against it. But then something impossible happened. The energy beam simply vanished. One moment it was there, bright enough to light up half the solar system. The next moment, it was gone, as if it had never existed. Zixtala stared at his screens in confusion. What happened? Where did the lance go? His crew was checking their instruments frantically. Sir, the energy readings just stopped. The beam disappeared completely. That is impossible. Nothing can stop a full-power crystal lance. But as Zixtila watched, something even more impossible began to happen. Ships were appearing around his fleet, not coming out of hyperspace or dropping from warp. Just appearing, as if they had been invisible, and suddenly decided to become visible. The ships were like nothing he had ever seen. They were sleek and beautiful, with hulls that seemed to bend light around them. They moved without any visible engines, sliding through space as smoothly as fish through water, and there were so many of them. How many ships? Zixtala asked, in a voice that was suddenly much quieter. Sensors show. Sir, this cannot be right. Over 3,000 ships, and more, appearing every second. The largest of the new ships moved closer to Zixtala's flagship. It was huge, maybe twice the size of his own vessel, but it moved with perfect grace. Along its hull, lights were spelling out words in the common galactic language. Ed's Eternal. What does that mean? Zixtala wondered aloud. His question was answered when a voice came over all communication channels. It was calm and clear, speaking in perfect Vorthok. This is Captain Sarah Phillips of the Earth defense ship Eternal. Nexarch Zixtala, you will power down your weapons immediately and withdraw from human space. Zixtala made a sound like grinding. Crystal. Human female. You're outnumbered 50 to 1. Your pathetic ships cannot threaten the might of the Vorthok hegemony. Next search, you are looking at less than 1% of the human fleet. Would you like to see more? As if in answer to her words, space began to fill with ships. They appeared, by the hundreds, then by the thousands. Each one was different, but all of them shared the same impossible grace and beauty. Sixtela's sensors could not count them all. The numbers kept climbing until his computers gave up and just displayed error messages. "This is some kind of trick," he said, but his voice was shaking now. "Holographic projections. Humans do not have this technology." Captain Phillips' voice came back, and now it carried a tone of sadness. "Next search, for over 400 years, humanity has been protecting your people. We have stopped 17 different wars that would have destroyed the Vorthok hegemony. We have quietly prevented 6 attempts to assassinate your previous leaders. We have guided your species away from developing weapons that would have made your home worlds uninhabitable." "Lies," Sixtela shouted. "Humans are weak, primitive. We let you believe that because it was safer for everyone, but now you have forced our hand." The Eternal moved closer to Sixtela's ship. As it approached, the Vorthak's weapon systems began to shut down one by one. Not damaged or destroyed, just peacefully turned off by some force that he could not understand. "Your weapons will not work against us," Captain Phillips said. "They never could have. But we hoped we would never have to prove it." Around the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The Corvin war fleet found themselves surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. General Thrakmer's mighty dreadnoughts suddenly could not fire their weapons. The Zephyrian swarm ships discovered that their hive mind network was being gently interfered with. Instead of receiving orders to attack, they were getting messages in their own language explaining that their target species was under human protection. The Luminari, energy beings, found their lightships being held in place by fields that existed outside normal spacetime. They could not move forward, backward, or retreat. On Nexus Prime, Speaker Vorthalon was receiving reports from all the fleets at once. Every single one was telling him the same impossible story. The humans, the weak and primitive humans, had somehow produced a fleet that made all the great empires look like children with toy boats. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood up in the council chamber, for the first time since he had started coming to these meetings. Every alien in the room was looking at him with something other than contempt. "Honored Speaker," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room, "I believe we need to have a different conversation now." Back in human space, Admiral Lisa Carter was getting reports from all her ships. The alien fleets had been completely neutralized without a single shot being fired. "Admiral," said Captain Ryan Bell over the radio, "our sensors are picking up energy signatures that are off the charts. These human ships, wherever they came from, they are using technology that should not be possible." Lisa smiled as she looked at her screens. The small fleet she commanded was suddenly surrounded by ships that made her vessels look like antiques. But these were human ships, crewed by humans who had been serving in secret for generations. "Captain Bell," she said, "I think it is time you learned about the real Earth Defense Fleet." President Rodriguez was addressing the world from the White House. Behind him, screens showed the impossible fleet that had appeared to protect humanity. "My fellow humans," he said, "what you are seeing is not science fiction. For over 400 years, our species has been keeping a secret. Today, that secret has been revealed because our survival depends on it." He paused, looking directly at the camera. "We are not the weak, primitive species that the galaxy believes us to be. We are the guardians of this galaxy, the protectors of all life within it. We have been protecting our enemies as well as our friends, because that is what guardians do." In her underground facility, Dr. Helen Walsh was coordinating the revelation from dozens of hidden bases. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy as Guardian stations revealed themselves. "Status report," she said to Dr. Tim Johnson. "All Guardian stations are online and visible. The alien fleets have been neutralized. No casualties on either side. Helen nodded, and the deep space arrays. Fully operational. We are scanning for devourer activity now. Helen felt a mixture of relief and fear. The secret was out, which meant humanity could finally work openly to prepare for the real threat. But it also meant that everything was about to change. Captain Sarah Phillips was speaking to Nexurch Sixila from the Bridge of the Eternal. Around them, both fleets hung motionless in space. Nexurch, I want you to understand something, she said. We did not reveal ourselves to conquer you. We revealed ourselves to save you. Save us from what? Sixthala asked. His anger was gone, replaced by confusion and fear. Sarah pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared between their ships. It showed the galactic core, with the growing patch of darkness that was spreading like an infection. From them, she said simply, they consume entire realities, turning everything into nothingness. They are the reason the architects left. They are the reason we have been building defenses for 4 centuries. Sixtella stared at the display. The dark patch was huge, covering what should have been millions of stars. How long? He asked quietly. The barriers are failing. We estimate 10 years, maybe less, before they break through completely. After that, every living thing in this galaxy will be destroyed, unless we work together to stop them. The crystal being was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke again, and his voice was different. Smaller, scared. What do you need us to do? Sarah smiled sadly. Learn, grow, become the allies we need instead of the enemies we cannot afford. The galaxy is bigger than our small conflicts. Nexurch. It is time all of us started acting like it. Across the galaxy, the great empires were learning the same lesson. The species they had dismissed as weak and primitive had been protecting them for centuries. Now those protectors needed their help to face a threat that could destroy everything. The old galaxy, with its wars and conquest and petty conflicts, was ending. A new galaxy, united in the face of ultimate darkness, was about to begin, whether they were ready or not. 3 months after the revelation, the galaxy was a very different place. The council chambers on Nexus Prime had been rebuilt to include a new section for human representatives. Ambassador Jake Morrison now sat at a table marked Guardian Command, with delegates from every major empire coming to him for guidance. The change had not been easy. Many alien leaders had been angry when they learned the truth. Some had accused humanity of manipulating galactic history. Others had demanded access to human technology immediately. But the discovery of the Devourers had changed everything. Speaker Vorthalon called the emergency session to order. His crystal voice was different now, less arrogant and more worried. The human deep space arrays have detected 17 new breaches in the containment barriers. The Devourers are moving faster than we predicted. Jake stood up and activated a holographic display that showed the galactic core. The dark patch had grown visibly larger in just 3 months. Where there had once been billions of stars, now there was only hungry emptiness. Our scientists estimate we have 8 years instead of 10, Jake said. Maybe less if the barriers continue to fail at this rate. We need to begin the upgrade program immediately. Nexurch Zixtala, who now served as the Vorthok representative to the new Galactic Defense Council, raised one of his crystal arms. My people are ready, but we need to understand what we are building. Jake nodded and changed the display. Now it showed technical diagrams that would have been impossible for most species to understand just months ago. But human teachers had been working around the clock to educate the other races. These are reality anchors, Jake explained. Devices that stabilize the fabric of space-time itself. The Devourers cannot consume what is properly anchored to our reality. General Thrakmer, representing the Corvan Empire, leaned forward. How many do we need? Millions. 1 for every major star system, with backup networks throughout empty space. It will require the combined industrial capacity of every civilization in the galaxy. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed the scope of the project. It was bigger than anything that had ever been attempted. Brightsinger, Velthara, speaking for the Luminary Collective, asked the question everyone was thinking. Can it be done in 8 years? Jake looked around the room at faces that had once viewed humanity with contempt. Now they were looking to him for hope. It can be done, he said firmly. But only if we work together like never before. No more wars, no more territorial disputes, no more thinking of ourselves as separate empires. From now on, we are all citizens of the same galaxy, and we are all fighting for the same thing: survival. On Earth, the planet that had once hidden its true nature was now revealed as the fortress world it had always been. President Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the newly unveiled Global Command Center, watching as massive construction ships worked to build orbital defense platforms. The hidden technology was now being shared openly. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to upgrade entire star systems with reality anchors. The process was faster than anyone had dared hope, but it was still not fast enough. Status report, Rodriguez said to Admiral Carter, who was now Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet. The Vorthok have converted their crystal ships to anchor production. The Zephyrians are using their hive mind to coordinate construction across 17 systems simultaneously. The Corvins have put their entire military-industrial complex at our disposal, and the Tellurians. Their merchant fleets are delivering anchor components faster than we can build them. Trade routes that used to carry luxury goods are now carrying the materials we need to save the galaxy. Rodriguez nodded with satisfaction. What about the deep space monitoring? Captain Phillips and the Guardian Network are tracking Devourer movement. So far, the remaining barriers are holding, but each breach is getting bigger. In the asteroid field where the Eternal was based, Captain Sarah Phillips was working with an international crew that would have been impossible just months ago. Vorthok crystal technicians worked alongside Zephyrian engineers and Luminary energy specialists. Report from Sector 447, said Lieutenant Frank Miller. The new reality anchor network is online and testing positive. Sarah looked at her screens, which showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Green dots marked completed anchor networks. Yellow dots showed systems under construction. Red dots showed areas where the Devourers had already broken through. There were too many red dots. How many systems are fully protected? She asked. 4,000 and growing. But we need at least 50,000 for complete coverage. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility that all humans now carried. For centuries, her people had protected the galaxy in secret. Now they were doing it openly, with all the pressure and fear that came with being the last hope for billions of lives. Dr. Helen Walsh was leading the largest scientific project in galactic history. Her underground facility had been expanded into a massive complex where the brightest minds from every species worked together to solve problems that had never been faced before. The anchor production rate is increasing, she reported to the assembled team, but we are still behind schedule. We need to find ways to build them faster. Dr. Tim Johnson, now her second in command, had an idea. What if we use Zephyrian biotechnology? They can grow structures instead of building them. It might be faster. A Zephyrian scientist named Hive Speaker clicked her mandibles in agreement. My people can adapt our ship-growing techniques to anchor production. We estimate a % increase in speed. Helen smiled. This was what she had hoped for when the secret was revealed. Not just human technology protecting the galaxy, but all species working together, sharing their unique abilities to solve the greatest challenge any of them had ever faced. On New Kansas, the crystal fields that Nexurch Zixthela had created were being converted into anchor production facilities. The Vorthok leader worked alongside Captain Ryan Bell, who had returned to help rebuild the world his people had been forced to abandon. "I owe you an apology," Zixtella said as they watched mixed crews of humans and Vorthok installing reality stabilizers. Ryan looked at the crystal being who had once threatened to destroy his world. "We all made mistakes. What matters now is what we do going forward." The crystal fields sparkled in the sunlight, but now they were tools of protection instead of conquest. Human families were returning to New Kansas, working side by side with Vorthok technicians to build the defenses that would keep their world safe from the ultimate darkness. Lieutenant Amy Foster, who had been one of the first to detect the hidden human fleet, was now commanding a mixed-species deep space monitoring station. Her crew included beings from every major empire, all working together to watch for signs of devourer activity. "Contact bearing 274 Mark 18, reported her Corvin sensor operator. Reality distortion, consistent with barrier breach." Amy felt her heart sink. Another breach meant another star system would be consumed, unless they could get an anchor network in place quickly. "Size of the breach?" she asked. "Large. Approximately 40 light-years across, and growing." Amy activated her emergency communications array. "This is Monitor Station Eco 72 Galactic Defense Command. We have a Category 5 breach in Sector 891, requesting immediate anchor deployment." The response came back within seconds. "Eco 7, this is Admiral Carter. Anchor fleet is en route. Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Amy looked at her screens, watching the dark patch grow larger by the minute. 6 hours might not be fast enough, but it was the best they could do. As the years passed, the galaxy learned to work together in ways that had never been possible before. The Zephyrian hive mind shared knowledge instantly across thousands of star systems. Vorthok crystal technology created anchor networks that were works of art as much as tools of survival. Corvin military discipline kept the massive construction projects on schedule. Luminary energy beings powered systems that required more energy than entire star systems could produce. And at the center of it all, humanity served as the coordinators, the planners, the ones who had been preparing for this moment for centuries. The galaxy was becoming something new. Not a collection of competing empires, but a single civilization, united in purpose. Children who had never known war were growing up working alongside aliens their grandparents had considered enemies. On the 5th anniversary of the revelation, Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Assembly. The chamber was now filled with representatives from over 10,000 species, including many who had never been part of the old council. 5 years ago, he said, humanity revealed its greatest secret. Today, I want to share our greatest hope. The holographic display showed the galaxy as it now existed. Green dots covered most of the map, showing star systems protected by reality anchor networks. The red patch at the galactic core had stopped growing. "The barriers are holding," Jake announced, and the chamber erupted in cheers that echoed in dozens of different languages. "The Devourers have been contained. For the first time in 50,000 years, they are not advancing." But Jake's expression remained serious. "This is not victory. This is a reprieve. The Devourers are still there, still hungry, still looking for ways through our defenses. We must remain vigilant. We must continue to work together, and we must never forget that our strength comes not from our weapons, but from our unity." As the assembly celebrated, Jake looked out at the faces of beings from across the galaxy, humans and aliens working together, protecting each other, building something greater than any one species could achieve alone. The secret was out. The hidden fleet was no longer hidden, but the mission remained the same: protect all life in the galaxy, no matter the cost. Humanity had revealed its true arsenal, but the greatest weapon had never been the ships or the technology. It had always been the wisdom to know when to hide, when to reveal, and when to trust that others could rise to meet the challenge. The galaxy was safe, for now, and together, they would make sure it stayed that way.